Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 4th day of August 2013 on this live Sunday edition. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here as we are every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, for the next 2 hours. This happens more and more when I'm about to start a broadcast that I just try to focus as much as I can to cover every bit of news and information we have and to try to lay it all out as best we can understand exactly what's happening. I got here 3 hours before the show today, and I prepared for the broadcast basically for about 4 hours before that at home. And I think I'm almost like a race car driver or something that goes out and does a bunch of laps and almost practices too much beforehand. Now, you know, some days I come in there 30 minutes before the show and don't do a lot of preparation because I've already know what I want to talk about. But when it gets into a subject like Benghazi, or it gets into a subject like the NSA, or a subject like Obamacare, or a subject like immigration reform, I start studying the subject and then get so much knowledge, it's hard to put it all out there. But I'm going to try to go over it all today. I think the most amazing facet of it, and what kind of dumbfounds me personally, is that it's 100% fact that the White House, Obama, the State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon ordered a stand down and sat there and waited 14 hours to get people on the ground, and it took them over 6 hours to overrun the embassy substation arms cache and kill the people inside. It was the front office of a large warehouse complex out back with thousands of heat-seeking missiles, anti-aircraft guns, rocket launchers, so both small, medium, and some heavy arms. And I've spent the last day going back and digging up the Colonel Schaefer interviews, the Wayne Madsen interviews, the Dr. Steve Pachinik interviews, where they all laid out in the days, weeks, and months after. Going back 10 months ago to September 11th last year, within just a few days and then weeks and months, they laid it all out that their sources said there was a stand-down ordered by Obama, that there was a giant arms cache there with the ambassador from Turkey being there, and that it was being transferred to Syria, and that the Benghazi security force had been ordered to basically go over and kill the ambassador and everybody inside by an unnamed group. Who do you think pays them? The White House. To get rid of witnesses so they could basically have plausible deniability later and say, oh my gosh, Al-Qaeda got all these missiles. We've got to take your rights away. They've got thousands of missiles crippling Europe and the U.S. We've got to set checkpoints up everywhere and take all your rights and have the TSA, you know, stick their hands down your pants everywhere because of Al-Qaeda. We laid all that out with our guest and our sources who weren't speculating. They were told this by their CIA, FBI, Defense Department, State Department sources. And then I went back last night, this morning, today, and I watched these hour-long interviews with Wayne Madsen, Colonel Schaefer, Pachinik, Dr. Pachinik, and it was all exactly accurate. Then I even found Kudlow reports a month after we broke it with their witnesses saying the same thing on CNBC. So all this big news coming out, because now CNN's reporting the same thing we've been saying in the last few days, is that we've caught them red-handed. There's no mystery to Benghazi. We're going to break all that down when we come back.
Protecting your home with a security system is a must.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we are here 6 days a week live. You have just now tuned into the Sunday edition, 4 to 6 p.m. every single Sunday Central Time. It is the 4th day of August, 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, we have solved the Benghazi mystery. And we solved it. We solved it 9 months ago, just a few weeks after the September 11th attack on the embassy substation that killed Ambassador Stevens and other CIA State Department personnel. And we on record with an NSA whistleblower, Wayne Madsen, with the former head of State Department Psychological Warfare, Dr. Steve Pachinik, with the former head of major operations in Black Ops, Colonel Tony Shaffer, and other guests we had on. And up on Infowars.com right now, we have the confirmed Benghazi was cover-up of arms transfer to al-Qaeda by Kurt Nimmo and yours truly, Alex Jones. And we worked yesterday and today on this article that has, from September of last year and October and November, 7 different links, 3 of them posted, video, interviews, /radio with Colonel Shaffer, Wayne Madsen, Dr. Steve Pachinik on the show first on our broadcast, breaking down exactly what happened at Benghazi. And ladies and gentlemen, if I knew this a few days and a few weeks after the entire government in the State Department, the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Department, NATO, they all know. There was 2 Predator drones over. There was a C-130. It took them 14 hours to get personnel there. They stood down for over 6 hours to let them be killed. That is a premeditated, deliberate stand down. And we have a congresswoman who is a former ambassador saying only the president could order a stand down of something of that magnitude on a State Department facility. And that's what went on. That's what happened. Congresswoman Obama gave Benghazi stand down order. And we're going to be going over Ann Wagner's comments, the Congresswoman, on that as well. So the point is that you've got all this other incredibly important news. We're going to get to that in the second hour. We've got NSA whistleblower and Navy veteran Wayne Madsen joining us at the bottom of the hour to go over this. But if you want to go to Infowars.com or Prisonplanet.com and click on the top red link story, confirm Benghazi was cover-up of arms transfer to al-Qaeda, you will see my guest with their sources in the Pentagon, the State Department, the NSA, the CIA, and NATO. Madsen had just been in Libya right before that happened, by the way. He actually goes to these places. Writes for some of the biggest publications in the country. They all laid it out. 3 different guests, and I had some others on as well, but they were speculating. These guys all had sources that said the same thing. And by the way, when Colonel Shaffer was on the broadcast, he ran Stratus Ivy and other major programs, could have killed bin Laden twice, was ordered to stand down in 2000 and 2001, testified in the 9/11 hearings. He was called in and threatened, because he teaches at the Army War College and also runs some other think tanks and is also a contributor to Fox News. But he was called in and threatened when he came on my show and said that, and couldn't come on for like 6-7 months after that happened, and is only now able to come on the show. I mean, it was a total freak out when he came on and said what he said. And what did he say? Heat-seeking missiles were transferred out of 3 giant warehouses. You can look at the Google Maps of this, that were controlled by that building behind it, filled with all of these heavy, medium, and light weapons. We're talking thousands of over 10,000 heat-seeking missiles missing in Libya. Several thousand. I also talked off record to an Air Force colonel. Here in Austin, Texas. I'll just leave it at that. I talked to an Air Force colonel in person that said, yes, they got most of the 10,000 heat-seeking missiles, and there were thousands in that building alone. And you had the Turkish ambassador, the foreign minister, there meeting hours before. My guest broke that months and months before it was in the news. And if you just tuned in, what am I getting at here? CNN Thursday night came out and we're going to play clips of this after the break, CNN came out and said, oh, we're breaking that there were 35 CIA operatives in warehouses behind the building and that there were missiles and heat-seeking missiles in there. Now, we broke this here, okay? And I don't want the credit. I just want people to understand, we don't make stuff up. I told you a year and a half ago, right after the Navy SEALs, 20 plus, was it 23 Navy SEALs, blew up on a Chinook aircraft in a fake mission and then were attacked once they hit the ground, that I talked to a Navy SEAL who's a friend of the family, for one of my dad's friends. He's friends with his father. We've known him for over a decade, you know, enough to come over and, you know, barbecues at my parents' house. And they said, no, he's in another SEAL team. I'm not going to say the SEAL team, but that everybody that they talked to in SEAL Team 6 knows there was a bomb on the helicopter, and it was a setup. Well, I told you that over a year ago. Now that's Fox News, that's Associated Press, since Michael Savage had some of the families on saying it 2 weeks ago. And then that forced them to cover it. And we're in contact with the families as well. But they've been scared to come on so far. These are actual families that lost family. Not the SEAL I knew, who an active duty who has friends in SEAL Team 6. I don't make stuff up, you understand? And I know real information when I get it. We broke the Homeland Security documents saying veterans and gun owners and Tea Party people are the main terror threat. Remember that 4 years ago? People didn't believe it at first. We just continue to break bombshell after bombshell. So understand, I'm working 7 days a week. I'll be honest, I can't even be home now with my wife and children. They're so innocent. They're so good. I just think, my God, they're not safe if I don't go fight this. I don't even go home basically anymore. Because when I'm there, all I'm thinking about is this and fighting it. That's how real this is, ladies and gentlemen. That's how in the game for this republic and freedom I am. And I don't know where the other talk show hosting people are. You think you're just going to play games with the New World Order? You're going to play games with the corrupt corporate mafias that have taken over our government? You think any of you are going to have a future? You think your bank accounts, your pension funds, your jobs are safe? Nobody's safe until we wake up as a country and get our nation back on track. We've never been perfect, folks, but we've never been this corrupt and this overrun by special interest. And corrupt forces have never gotten away with things at this magnitude. You think I'm happy that we were all proven right from 10 months ago, 9.5 months ago? I guess it was about 9.5 months ago. We broke this. And I sat there on Thursday and Friday going, didn't we report this first? And I went and looked at it Friday, and I looked at it Saturday. I'm like, Infowars.com and my contacts and who we had on the air, we broke that. And then we're so forward-looking, fighting the next globalist threat, the next authoritarian wave, that we weren't even going to report on the fact that we broke all this. And then, weeks after we broke all this, credit where it's due, the Kudlow report, that I got to be honest, that show continues to actually tell the truth on so many issues. Like when the foreign banks brag they've conquered us, they show the headline. Or when they admit that foreign banks are stealing trillions, they report on it. They reported. We're going to play that clip that it was an arms deal. But the whole issue here is there's no debate there was a standout. The only question is, did they go, oh, it's embarrassing that our al-Qaeda buddies are killing people, let's just say it was from a movie and whitewash it, or did they send them in to kill them so that there's dead men tell no tales of why al-Qaeda was given thousands of missiles, which the system is going to use then as a threat against the West to take all of our liberties. We'll be right back. Right, my friends, and you are tuned into the Sunday live edition. We're also here weekdays, noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. The websites are Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. So here's the issue. Now, you can go up to Infowars.com, see our article with the YouTube stamped, because we're also a TV show, not just radio, YouTube stamped uploads from a week after the September 11th attack in Benghazi last year, 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, a month after, 2 months after, laying it out first, everything that happened in Benghazi. And why is that important? Well, the next media outlet that I saw to tell the truth from their sources was the November 11th program on CNBC, the Kudlow Report, with John Batchelor, who I continue to see tell the truth. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. And I can't vouch for him on every subject. I don't watch it routinely. I just continue to see clips where that guy, was getting accurate information. And I wish this wasn't true. I wish it was just a group of out-of-control jihadis that went and killed some people. I wouldn't be happy about that, but it's a lot less scary than, well, wait a minute. My sources said that they hired several hundred local al-Qaeda militia, the same ones that they put in charge in Benghazi when they used that as a base of operations against Gaddafi, NATO, Obama, the globalist. And Congress had some issues with that, obviously, arming al-Qaeda there. And then they were using it to arm out of Libya, the weapons left over from that war, and Gaddafi stockpiles that were pretty high-tech, including British, U.S., and French-made missiles, heat seekers, to then give those to al-Qaeda, that is the main force, attacking Assad in Syria, to then turn that country over to al-Qaeda. And again, I've been telling you this for over 2 years. Now it's mainstream news that, yes, al-Qaeda makes up over 60% of the main fighters against Assad. Again, showing that our so-called government is using these people to destabilize the world and as a pretext to take our liberties. And I'm going to explain how this works in a moment. But this is a big deal that this has now been confirmed, because you have Colonel Schaefer and Wayne Madsen coming up in the next segment, and Dr. Pachinik, and all these government sources we have, and an Air Force colonel separately that I talked to off record just a month after it happened, all confirmed what is just widely known. The Air Force colonel said it is widely known. Anybody with an intelligence clearance knows it, because it was in situation rooms in the Pentagon, situation rooms in Langley, Virginia at the CIA, the NSA, on the aircraft carriers, the Mediterranean, at the NATO headquarters. They all had feeds of it happening in high def from the predators. And he said he talked to people that were on duty and witnessed it. And people sat there as it played out hour after hour. It's one thing if you drop a missile and then a kid walks outside the hut and you go, oh my gosh, we killed a kid. It's another thing to sit there and watch people killed and fighting back hour after hour and being ordered to stand down. And then to see it all lied about in the media. That's why Benghazi is so dangerous for the Obamanoids. And so there was a stand down. The security that they hired to run Benghazi was the group, we have their name, the list, all of it, that went and did the killing. But they had inside knowledge of how to attack the facility. That's now come out. Everything we were told came out later to be confirmed. And now CNN and the London Telegraph and AP and others are saying, yes, we've talked to CIA people. They're being given monthly polygraphs, something that's usually done every 2 years, to find out if they're talking to the media, to cover up what's happening. And these people are so mad about what happened, they tell us it was an arms deal and it was missiles and heat-seeking missiles. I mean, boom. That's Jack Tapper reporting that. So let's go to a small clip from that full report that we have linked up on Infowars.com. 9+ months after we told you first, again, we know what we're talking about. This has now come out. And the bigger issue is, if we know, if Alex Jones knows, if my guests know, the whole system knows, okay? So this is not a mystery to people in government. This is not a mystery to the media whores. Let's go to this clip.
Lawmakers want to know about what happened with the terrorist attacks. There's this question of the weapons in Libya that were there and what happened to them.
Yeah, the speculation on Capitol Hill has included that, Jake. The possibility that the U.S. agencies operating in Benghazi were actually secretly helping to move specifically surface-to-air missiles out of Libya through Turkey and into the hands of Syrian rebels. We know 2 U.S. agencies operating in Benghazi. One was the State Department, and the other was the CIA. The State Department told us they were only helping the new Libyan government destroy weapons that were deemed damaged, aged, or too unsafe to retain, and that the State Department was not involved in any transfer of weapons to other countries. But the State Department, Jake, clearly told us they can't speak for any other agencies, meaning the CIA. And when you start talking about missions, the CIA just flatly would not go on record.
All right.
About that.
All right. CNN
now, ladies and gentlemen, we know they're the warehouses. We were told by the guy that co-wrote Tom Clancy's books, for heaven's sakes. That's how high up Dr. Pachinik is. Former head of Black Ops, psych warfare, basically for the whole government. that happened within weeks of it going on. Well, actually, it was on days after. Then I had him on earlier this year. Then we, again, had all these other witnesses on. Colonel Schaefer, Wayne Madsen, who's coming up in the next segment. Now, let's give credit where credit's due. Weeks after we break this, CNBC, Benghazi is not about Libya. It's about the NSC operation, exactly what Pachinik said, moving weapons into Turkey to al-Qaeda out of Libya. Here is that clip from 9 months ago.
Benghazi is not about Libya. Benghazi is about the policy of the Obama administration to involve the United States without clarity to the American people, not only in Libya, but throughout the whole of the Arab world, now in turmoil. Benghazi is about the NSC directing an operation that is perhaps shadowy, perhaps has a presidential finding, perhaps doesn't, that takes arms and men and puts them into Syria in the guise of the Free Syrian Army. This is a very large story, Larry, and it's right in front of us for the second term.
Boy, this thing's going to unravel like crazy. It's going to unravel like crazy.
All right, let's stop right there.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's going to unravel like crazy. And when we were covering this 10 months ago, 9 months ago, we were the conspiracy theorists. I mean, these are real guests, real people that have proven accurate over and over and over again. The mainstream media, most of the time, is trying to lie to you and keep you in the dark, folks. Everybody knows the truth who isn't completely stupid. Just most people in the system play along with the lie. I want to play Representative Ann Wagner, who was also an ambassador just a few months ago, saying only Obama could give the stand-down order as we go out to break.
And last quick question I have for you, Congresswoman, because you have been an ambassador, you have been overseas in similar with similar responsibilities and similar missions. Who gives such an order to stand down? Where does that come from?
The President of the United States.
The President of the United States. All right, when we come back, we're going to get Wayne Madsen. He formerly worked in one of the security details over the NSA, now known as the Q Group. That's the people that keep the secrets secret. He's going to be coming on with us to break down, now 9 months after he broke all this here, any other details we have, and ask, what does it mean that all this is now beginning to come out? Has the dam broke on Benghazi? Will it bring down Obama? Again, thank you for joining us on this live Sunday edition. We've been talking about Benghazi and what it means. I mean, why would they want to order a stand down and let people be killed? Bare minimum, they ordered a stand down. That's come out. There was a stand down. They're threatening everybody. They're acting totally paranoid. They've been caught lying. We know there were arms being transferred. But did they go in there to get rid of the State Department because the State Department wouldn't transfer the heat-seeking missiles to al-Qaeda? That's now being discussed on CNN. That's now what the CIA whistleblowers are telling CNN and Reuters and AP. This is so big. We're going to get to that with Wayne Madsen, NSA whistleblower in his own right, who's testified to Congress, the EU, you name it. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, I want to tell you about InfoWarsHealth.com. Whatever I promote, it's the very best out there at the lowest price. I go out and find the best products, whether it's Pure water filters with 10% off with promo code WATER, the best gravity-fed filters, stainless steel, portable, you name it. And they've got some new systems as well, like their Nomad at InfoWarsStore.com. I go out and find the very best products. And I went and did a year of research until we found the very best clean brown seaweed with all of its amazing health effects for the thyroid and the blood, according to all the medical doctors we've interviewed, with the Modifylon, available at InfoWarsStore.com. But separately, we have close to 400, it may be over 400 products at InfoWarsHealth.com, like Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0, Citrus Peach Fusion, the ultimate multivitamin mineral complex super drink that has whole foods, trace minerals, antioxidants, probiotics, prebiotics, amino acids, essential cofactors, and more. Go to InfoWarsHealth.com to get the lowest price anywhere on Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the original and 2.0, totally organic, certified non-GMO, organic. Nobody else can say that with the super drinks that are out there. It's got everything, every mineral, trace element, you name it. It is simply amazing. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0, the Osteo FX, the CM Plus, you name it. It is all available at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsHealth.com. And you can also call to ask any questions or order 888-789-9277, 888-789-9277. The great InfoWars team is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your questions. They can help you sign up online if you need help. It's pretty simple, but if you need any help, they can also help you sign up to get free shipping and other discounts. I mean, you can become a distributor for signing up for $10 and get big discounts, or just buy right off the shopping cart at InfoWarsHealth.com. And by shopping with the good guys, we're not funded by taxpayer money like NPR or MSNBC. That gets bailout money and stimulus money. We're funded by like-minded people that vote with their dollars in the free market, free association. So if you like the hardcore journalism that's pro-America, pro-liberty, not left or right, but just hardcore truth, then support us at InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsHealth.com today. All right. Going to Wayne Madsen of WayneMadsenReport.com. He's a syndicated columnist, written for some of the biggest papers in the country, reported on, broke major national news stories on national security, helped found what the Electronic Frontier Foundation and other groups, has testified to the EU, the Congress, in the first wave of NSA exposure 15 years ago and then 12 years ago with James Bamford, the producer of Nightline, Body of Secrets. So much of what's come out on the NSA was actually broken by Wayne Madsen. And Wayne Madsen was in a unique position to understand all of this because he worked in internal security at the NSA watching the watchers. And it said that they actually follow the law up until, just the last decade or so. So we're going to be breaking that down with Wayne into the next hour a little bit. But first, I wanted to get into Benghazi with him. Because if you look at the layers of the onion here, folks, Wayne Madsen, Steve Pieczenik, Dr. Pieczenik, and Colonel Schaefer, who works at the highest level of Black Ops, all said the same thing in the week, the month, and the months after. And their interviews are all up on Infowars.com. Insider, Wayne Madsen, and others expose the confirmed Benghazi was cover-up of arms transfer to al-Qaeda. And why are we going back to this now? Because we said it first. Then CNBC, of all places, DrudgeReport.com covered it within a month of it as well. But the establishment, prostitute, parrot media, the state-run media, to a large extent, just said it was no big deal. A film made people mad when that film had been out for months with the trailer for it. So now it's confirmed it was about arms transfer. So the question is, this is what Wayne said 9 months ago. I'm going to ask him now. The question is, A, did the attack start? It was the Benghazi hired security by the State Department, by the CIA, by the National Security Council. They didn't want to be embarrassed, so just let them kill them, and then they'll get the weapons, and we'll use the terror threat later to take rights. Or, and I think the evidence points towards this, they sent them in to wipe them out, but Navy SEALs showed up who didn't follow orders to stand down and pinned down the al-Qaeda people for 6+ hours until the cover-up became evident. Regardless there's been a cover-up, regardless there's been a stand-down, Wayne Madsen of WayneMadsenReport.com, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's a scary position. You had to leave the country last year after this for a few months because of death threats. This is not a game, folks. This is not a joke. Look at Michael Hastings. They blew up. We're all sad about being right. We wish we were wrong, but what now in hindsight, and now as you've been proven absolutely accurate, what happened here? What is your latest intel? What are your sources saying?
Well, it's what I said originally. I think there were a lot of things that play in Benghazi. I think the U.S. had supplied weapons to the Libyan rebels, and then obviously when the Syria thing happened, they wanted to transfer not only weapons, but some of these Islamist fighters from the Libyan campaign to the Syrian campaign. And obviously, Stevens, the ambassador, was a part of this. The other thing, this wasn't a U.S. embassy operation in Benghazi. It was a CIA station operating under diplomatic cover. How many people were going in there and getting visas to visit the United States? That's usually what the purpose of embassies. Issue visa, protect U.S. citizens.
And you said that last year. It's now confirmed it was a CIA op.
Yeah.
And so we see the rats leaving the sinking ship as State Department points the finger at CIA.
Yeah, now we know lots of CIA personnel were on the ground in Benghazi. And then the other thing is, what happened right after Obama was reelected? We had General Petraeus, the CIA director, basically fired over an extramarital affair that was known about before he was fired. We also know that Mitt Romney during a campaign said, we need an October surprise for this campaign. So obviously there was an interest by many parties in setting the stage for some incident at some embassy. It turns out it was Benghazi. That anti-Islamic movie that came out, yes, it had been out, but look how that thing was hyped around the world. And, you know, some of the actors that were in that were porn actors in Hollywood.
And FBI informants. But, I mean, here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Bottom line, did they order the hit of the ambassador to cover up the weapons transfer, or was it the security force, the al-Qaeda force they'd hired that got out of hand?
Yeah, I think it got out of hand. I think, look, the CIA controls al-Qaeda. They're controlling them in Syria. They control them in Libya. I would suggest that the patsies used, one could argue whether they were even connected to al-Qaeda. We were told that by that phony 9/11 commission. The ones used in 9/11, we know that one of them was an Egyptian Air Force colonel named Mohammed Atta that spent a heck of a lot of time at the Officers Club at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. He doesn't sound like my idea of a run-of-the-mill al-Qaeda operative. He sounds like a run-of-the-mill CIA operative. We control this bin Laden and al-Qaeda. And now when it's convenient for NSA to turn on the fear machine again, al-Qaeda chatter between al-Qaeda leaders.
That's where I'm going next. We're going to come back to you, Wayne. That's where we're going next. With right as all this Benghazi breaks, right as all this comes out, oh my gosh, close all the embassies, al-Qaeda is going to attack. We'll cover that when we come back. I haven't even gotten yet to the issue that Wayne Madsen joining us just raised as we went to break. You have our so-called government, a collection of foreign, corporate, offshore, above the law, diplomatic community crooks. You have them founding Saudi Arabia, creating the Wahhabis, creating al-Qaeda, turning Egypt over to them, turning Libya over to them, turning Syria preemptively over to them, giving them heavy weapons on record, and then lobbying to get Congress to authorize more heavy weapons. And the Council on Foreign Relations about a year ago had the quote, we've shown it many times, we need al-Qaeda. They make up over 60% of the best fighters. The al-Qaeda flags, chanting they're going to blow America up after they've taken down Assad. We've written countless articles and shown you those videos. And then Lindsey Graham, the anti-gun, pro-open border, John McCain 2.0 slimebag, comes out today and says, I agree with Obama. I met with the vice president. This is scary. We need to close all the embassies and be scared. Al-Qaeda is on steroids. They're coming to get us. It is so frightening. Give up all your rights. Ooh, do what I say or the monsters will get you. When Al-Qaeda is what they use to take all our liberties here in America. It's so obvious. It's so ridiculous. I want to play a clip of that and then go back to Wayne Madsen to talk about how serious this is, because they might actually have some of their Al-Qaeda forces blow something up. And again, some of the mid-level and low-level jihadis actually believe they're attacking America. They'll follow orders from guys up on top. Most of them born in America, turns out, are really CIA. Because CIA isn't America, folks. It's a bunch of foreign interests that have infiltrated it and totally control it. And that's congressional hearings that have admitted that. So let's go to Graham, fear-mongering, saying it's scary. You need to be scared and forget all the other news, the NSA spying, and just do what they say or Al-Qaeda will blow you and your family up. Here's the scary clip.
As you watch this unfold, what is your general impression here? This looks, if you're an ordinary American, looks pretty scary.
Scary.
Well, I had a briefing with the vice president. It is scary. Al-Qaeda's on the rise.
Oh, scary.
This part of the
Giving
world.
them heat-seeking missiles was scary?
The NSA program is proving its worth yet again.
See, we're spying on you to keep you safe from
the
Al-Qaeda we run.
Frustration has to be fixed. If this happens a year from now, our intelligence community and military will be less capable.
They need more power, absolutely.
That's where the war is going.
We should all wear cameras inside our bodies to make sure Al-Qaeda.
We're about to withdraw from Afghanistan. I don't want Afghanistan to become Iraq, where we withdraw all of our troops.
You need that opium,
huh? Comes back. You know, Western Afghanistan is a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. So I appreciate what the administration
safe haven like Syria and Libya.
Approach to this. Benghazi was a complete failure. The threats were real there. The reporting was real. And we basically dropped the ball. We've learned from Benghazi.
Oh, you did.
And the administration's doing this right.
Oh, good. Yay, Obama. Let's get rid of the Republican rhino who wants your guns and open borders and who looks like a complete psychopath. I mean, I would not. If I walked in a restaurant and my waiter looked like Lindsey Graham and had eyes like that, I'd get up and leave. I mean, I get shivers up my spine. And by the way, we know about Mr. Graham. Oh, boy, let me tell you. Clowning around. Okay, Wayne, we're going to get into more issues in the next hour, but you've got the floor on this issue. Break down what we're dealing with these threats, with supposed embassies that are being targeted, and just the fear-mongering with CNN going, this is scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it amazing that so-called news reporters like Ate Too Much Candy Crowley is talking to Miss South Carolina about scary things? Look, this is made out of whole cloth. This chatter that was intercepted because NSA has to push back against Congress. Congress is actually growing a pair now and starting to talk about limiting the power that NSA has to conduct this surveillance in total violation of the
Which
Fourth
they
Amendment.
admit is targeting the press and not Al-Qaeda they run.
Yeah, so what we have here, you've got, Miss South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, you've got Saxby Chambliss, the draft dodger from Georgia. He's been engaged in this rhetorical flourish. The guy who called Max Cleveland, who left 3 limbs in South Vietnam, called him a coward during the campaign. And then you've got Peter King, this guy who supported the provisional wing of the Irish Republican Army, talking about terrorism. And, my sources in British intelligence told me, who were in New York following this guy in the 1970s and 80s, said Peter King was not only raising money, but providing material for the provisional wing of the IRA that committed acts of terrorism in Northern Ireland, in the UK. I was on London Underground trains where I was forced to evacuate because of suspicious packages found during an IRA bombing campaign in London. And we've got this guy, Peter King, talking about terrorism. He's a terrorist. This fat Gaelic terrorist has the nerve to be talking about terrorism. And now he wants to run for president of the United States. These politicians are revolting, disgusting, nauseating. To hear these guys on these Sunday talk shows with these talking heads like Candy Crowley and these other Nimrods, talking about that all they're doing is feeding the fear factor on behalf of NSA. We know now that NSA is using propagandists, using social networking to go after people like Tom Drake and William Binney and Russ Tice and all these others who have blown the whistle on NSA. I mean, Snowden.
Are you kidding? They're using social network to go after me? You've caught them.
Absolutely.
People need to know, all these trolls attacking us, folks, it's because we're up here breaking the news.
Yeah, what am I paying money to the Naval? My tax money goes to the U.S. Naval War College. I hold an international relations certificate from that college, and there's a professor up there who engages in constant Twitter campaigns against people like myself, against you, against Russ Tice, against Tom Drake, against others. What are we paying these salaries of these people to attack us for? I'm just disgusted by it and insulted by it. And I think we're the ones, he says people like that say they're not speaking on behalf of the government. When he was on the Chris Hayes show on MSNBC with Professor U.S. Naval War College right under his name, I defy that person to tell me that he's not.
Well, let's expand on this. The open announcement that they're going to have Pentagon squads, PR squads, every federal agency. Social Security is going to do counterintelligence against their recipients. The government is getting on a war footing against the American people and announcing the gloves are off and that they're going to engage in psyops or lies against us. What does that signify? This has been going on for a while, but what does it signify they're bringing it out in the open?
Well, remember old Cass Sunstein? He was basically Obama's information czar. He's out of there, but, you know, his wife's our U.S. ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power. So the policy will continue.
No, you're right. That's in the news, that they're running it. Our government, and they go, it's legal for us to have psyops attack citizens and press now.
Yeah, good. It's also legal for me to go after these sock puppets and these psyop organizers and these people who are on the government payroll who engage in this. It's fine for me to go after them. And,
but exactly, but I mean, look, just because there was a law before and they say there isn't a law now, this is what the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany did. I mean, they are denouncing. They are really showing who they are.
That's right. You know, in the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, East Germany with the Stasi, how did you go after people? You had the neighbors and their colleagues denounce them to the media, denounce them to the government, denounce them to the public. And this is exactly what's going on today in this country. It's so un-American. It defies logic.
Well, meanwhile, all we're doing is exposing the looting of the banks, the looting of our rights, the killing of the ambassador. I see this as signs of desperation. What's the mood in D.C.?
Oh, you know, look, amongst the intelligence community, those who have not been sucked into the machine that causes your brain to get scrambled and you drink the purple Kool-Aid, you know, the Jonestown beverage of choice. If you're not in that category, your morale is very low. People at NSA, you know, they're not all buying into this. There's people there that know that what people like Snowden have said and others is the truth. But look, that Q group you mentioned earlier, that's internal NSA security. They've become a police force within a police force, an intelligence agency within an intelligence agency. They're requiring all kinds of checks now. They've got this like snitch on your colleague program, and that has been extended all through the whole federal
And they're doing monthly polygraph tests. I mean, this is a flaming authoritarian government. Obama is persecuting the press. They're calling him Nixon on steroids. Second hour coming up with Wayne Madsen. I'm Alex Jones. By the way, after Wayne leaves us, I'll get into this breaking news at Infowars.com. Insider blows the whistle on military takeover plan. It's really a DHS takeover plan at a military base. Why would the U.S. government need a mock U.S. town at Fort, how do you pronounce that, Chaffee? Arkansas. So we're going to be getting into that report that's up on Infowars.com and all the photos of it. Going back to Wayne Madsen. Wayne, I want to get specifically into some of the other scandals and also in the next segment open the phones up so people can ask you questions. But I really want to get, because I know you have a lot of government sources and others, how far is this going to go? Because, I mean, even the Washington Post, I saw a story yesterday, said, Obama succeeded where Nixon failed. And it was like, he knows how to persecute the press. It's kind of cool when he does. And he knows how to persecute people that whistleblow corruption. And then you've got John McCain saying attack Russia and all this bizarreness over Snowden. I mean, it's I know they're tyrants and they've taken us over, but it's also kind of comical that it's so dysfunctional and obviously illegal, everything they're doing.
Yeah, it's to the point now. You know, they've got everybody now. You know, our sources, investigative journalist sources, have dried up for the most part. They're scared. They've been frozen. We know with the wiretapping of the Associated Press and Fox News and other journals, New York Times, myself, we can't get people to talk. But look, that doesn't mean there's still not people in the government that know this garbage is being invented, you know, out of whole cloth. For example, the list of embassy closures, this is what the government's not telling you. First of all, the list was odd. That, you know, there's a lot of Arab and Muslim embassies and consulates in Arab and Muslim countries that were shut down for today
Plus, they're shut down on the weekend usually anyways.
And now they say they're going to be shut down. Many are going to be shut down for the following week. But we have to remember, on the 7th of August to the 8th, it's the celebration of Eid al-Fitr. It's the end of Ramadan. Everybody, the fasting is over. It's, food and partying and that type of thing. So obviously you're going to have closures anyway this week. This thing is made out of whole cloth. I looked at the list, though. It was very funny that not among the embassies closed was Islamabad, where Kerry had to walk back something. He said, well, we're going to stop using drones on Pakistan. And he had to walk that back. That was obviously a political decision not to close the embassy in Islamabad because tensions are very high now between the U.S. and Pakistan. Also not closed were the embassy in Beirut. Now we're told that there's a significant problem with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Well, they didn't close that embassy, so obviously there is no problem with Hezbollah in Lebanon. There never has been. And the embassies in Tunis, where there's been violence, and in Rabat, Morocco, where there was violence over the Moroccan king freeing a Spanish spy who was a convicted pedophile, raped 11 Moroccan boys. That one wasn't closed. And now this following week, we have embassies in Mauritius, Madagascar, Burundi, and Rwanda, countries that don't have large Muslim populations closing. But the one in Mauritania is being opened, and the one in Kurdistan up in northern Iraq, the consulate there is being. This thing was put together by a bunch of morons in the State Department, political types. If they asked any of the seasoned Foreign Service officers there, they would have said, "Well, look, if you're going to close the embassies, you better close all of them, and don't do this kind of cherry picking because your list is going to smell really bad." And bad.
You're absolutely right. When we come back, I want you to recap this. I want to put a map up for TV viewers that are watching at Infowars.com/show or on Prisonplanet.tv. I want to put that up for people so they can understand they're not shutting them down in Baghdad and Saudi Arabia and Lebanon. They're shutting them down in Rwanda, way down on the west coast of Africa that has a tiny Muslim population and no history of terror attacks. I want to explain this to them. I mean, the disdain they have for the public is just unbelievable. And what a way to change the subject. From our government funding al-Qaeda to, we're closing the embassies, they'll get us. It's all just a simulation targeting a public they know doesn't pay attention. And your phone calls will come up too.
Every 3 seconds.
Well, the former head of the NSA is on Fox News right now, calling for us all to give up our rights. We have to have everything we do tracked and recorded and get rid of the 4th Amendment and the 10th Amendment for that matter, and have the feds in our lives because of al-Qaeda, who they founded and who they've armed on record. And we've also got, these embassies shut down in places like Rwanda, where there's never been any terrorist attacks against any Western operations, almost no Muslims. And they don't have it shut down in other places. And, of course, you've got Rwanda right in the middle of Africa. So just absolutely ridiculous that things like this are going on. And Wayne Madsen, formerly with the National Security Agency, syndicated columnist, WayneMadsenReport.com. Recap what you were saying. They're not shutting down embassies in Lebanon, north of Israel. They're not shutting them down in places like Pakistan. They're just shutting them down where it doesn't even matter to then say, see, we need to spy on you without warrants. And Congress, how dare you say, that we shouldn't outdo the East German Stasi? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Right. The list of embassies that was closed down makes no sense at all. For example, there was an attempt by a gunman some time ago, last year, to enter the U.S. Embassy in Ankara in Turkey. He was shot before he could get in there. But that embassy wasn't closed. Why? Because Turkey's a member of NATO. Turkey's helping us in Syria. This list is unusual. And also, in the embassy in the former Soviet Central Asian stands that are primarily Muslim, they weren't shut down. The one in Azerbaijan wasn't shut down because the U.S. has a lot of oil connections there. And now this coming week, the one in Kurdistan is reopened, the U.S. consulate there, and a few others, and now new ones are being closed. The thing makes no sense at all because the thing was, I think it was just done at a moment's notice to help NSA convince everybody that they need to continue doing this surveillance. So, some political weenie at the State Department pulled this list literally out of their butt without any sort of forethought. And anyone who knows anything about U.S. foreign policy and the closure of embassies knows that Eid al-Fitr is coming up this week. So, these embassies were going to be closed anyway. And this whole thing was just an effort in a ridiculous propaganda ploy.
Folks, I want to give you the number so you have a chance to talk directly to Wayne Madsen. The phones are open for Wayne Madsen, your questions for a syndicated columnist, researcher, someone who's advised Congress, the EU on national security issues concerning the NSA-type grids. Your chance to ask him about Benghazi Gate, any of it, 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. Questions only for Wayne Madsen, 877-789-2539. But we have now an open debate about the persecution of the press, persecution of whistleblowers. They've been caught with the stand-down order on Benghazi. They've been caught with Fast and Furious. They've just been caught, as you said a month ago when you were down here visiting in Austin, Texas, Obama has out-Nixon Nixon to the power of 10. How do you think Obama's going to end? Because I know he's a front man, but they've gotten so much done under him. Where do you see all this going? I mean, if liberty versus tyranny was a football game, what's the score?
Well, look, it's his birthday today. He's 54 years old. Is it 54 or 52? He's 52 years old today. He's got, he's going to be leaving office in 2017, January. He's going to still be a young guy. He's now talking, he's now going to be taking contributions for his presidential library, which it looks like it's going to be in Chicago.
Oh, boy.
And now he's going to be on everyone's take. He's going to be just like Bill Clinton and the rest of them getting donations. So this guy's going to be obviously doing much more with the Saudis and the Qataris because he knows that they're going to give him a lot of money.
Sure, he's turning the whole Middle
library.
East over to them and their Al-Qaeda people.
This is part of it. Absolutely. He's looking at his legacy and his library and all that stuff.
So the real whore phase of pardons and everything's about to begin.
Yeah. He's going to be cutting all kinds of side deals. And obviously countries that are not going along with his program, like Russia and China, are going to, face a lot more pushback by the U.S. Look, he's got Susan Rice as his national security advisor. She's more interested in going after Venezuela and Cuba and Iran and Russia and China. She's very silent on Bahrain, which did a very bloody crackdown on its own population. Where is she on Saudi Arabia, one of the most misogynist countries on the planet? Where is she on these other U.S.-supported dictatorships? This is what we're going to see because Bahrain's going to probably kick in a nice hefty sum for the Obama presidential library, and so will a lot of these other, not only countries, but companies. And if I'd say that the people in charge of the Trans-Canada pipeline, the XL pipeline, they're probably already writing the check for the Obama library, so he approves that pipeline.
Absolutely, shut down the American pipelines and only allow their pipelines to open up. I mean, this is how real business is done. You don't build things; you just get paid off and shut down people's competition. Speaking of Bahrain, Amber Lyon, who won several Emmys for her television news reporting. She found out they were killing her stories when she was there of Bahrain, lining men, women, and children up and shooting them, and were paying $500,000 per episode to kill. Were they killing her show? They were paying $500,000 to CNN to kill reporting on it. So when we say pro-regimes, we mean pro-globalist regimes they've seized. And I want to be clear, I've studied history as you have. I don't romanticize Russia. My family's been in America since the Mayflower, before it was even colonies. I know Russia's got its own problems. At the same time, they're decrying spying. They're trying to go more free market. They have lower taxes than us in Russia. And then Putin defies them. And then John McCain, for those that don't know, on Friday said basically we should have war with Russia. And we're seeing other bizarre, insane statements with the whole Snowden thing, giving him temporary, visa there. What do you make of that?
Look, how do we criticize Russia? We have George Soros, who's one of Obama's big funders,
an admitted Nazi collaborator.
Yeah, right. And he's paying money to this Pussy Riot to basically disrupt religious services in Moscow and chop down crosses in Kiev and Ukraine and all kinds of other things. But I don't see some of these. Where's Miss Lindsay?
That's right. They're going and violating other people's speech so they can claim Putin and Russia is violating free speech.
Exactly.
When they're the ones setting up free speech zones here. And it turns out that punk rock band is openly funded by the State Department.
Absolutely. And who's in Cairo today as Obama's personal representatives? But Miss Lindsay and John McCain, Insane McCain. They're his personal representatives over there. I mean, when are these two guys going to go to IKEA and start picking out furniture together? I mean, it's incredible. You send these two lunatics, both these guys have been very critical of Obama. So, but look, Obama's not his own. He's being told what to do. It's like when he ran in 2008, somebody that I know with the CIA said, you don't know what you're supporting here. You have no idea who this guy is. And when, I thought about that and started looking into him, of course, he'd already been elected president. I realized this guy had a CIA pedigree, and I wrote a book about it. And by the way, I have a new book out about it. It's called NSA Surveillance Reflections and Revelations, 2001 to 2013.
And by the way, I want to carry all your books. Why in the world are they not in the InfoWars store? We need to get that deal going, Wayne. I know some of them are ebooks.
Yeah, some of them are, and also, they can be Lulu and Amazon Create. They're carrying both of them. They came out last week, but basically, it's to show that I was reporting on some of these.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm going to carry the hard copy starting next week, and we're going to get you back on about that to go over the whole history of the spying. WayneMadsonReport.com. You can find all of his new books that just came out. You're not too good at promoting your books, buddy. You need to tell me about this. I want to get you on about that. Wayne, stay there. We're going to come back and take some phone calls on the other side of this break, and you know the number. It's different on Sunday than it is on the weekday show. It's 877-789-ALEX. It goes right into me here. I control these calls. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Radio Network.
All right. In the next two segments, I'm going to go to your phone calls for Wayne Madsen, formerly with the National Security Agency, syndicated columnist, great author and researcher on a host of subjects. Just always has amazing info that just continues to turn out to be accurate over the decade plus I've been interviewing him. And then I'm going to get into the attack on free speech. Did you know in Seattle they've banned the word paper bag and the word citizen, saying it's hurtful. Brown bag is racist, and the word citizen is racist. I actually have newscast. I'm not joking. And I have articles where Gadsden flags are being taken down. The police are being dispatched. That's racist now. Don't tread on me. They'll say your guns are racist. In fact, they are now saying they're racist. And then take those. This is authoritarianism. And a dumbed-down public. Yeah, there's Fox News. Seattle to ban potentially offensive words like brown bag and citizen. I mean, I say this stuff now, and it was like in Wisconsin, an animal shelter had a baby deer because the mama got run over, and they sent a 8 armored vehicle SWAT team to the well-known facility and came and killed the deer in front of them because you're not allowed to have a baby deer. I mean, it's like every control freak nutball gets into government or corporations, big ones, and we just bow down. That's the opposite of what America is. We're all, ladies and gentlemen, independent sovereign citizens that have rights. And we're being told, we're running over your rights for reasons. No, that's not what's happening. So we'll get into some of that. That's all up on Infowars.com. Articles like confirmed Benghazi was covered up of transfer of arms to al-Qaeda. Isn't it rich? Lindsey Graham says al-Qaeda is on steroids now. Well, yeah, after you and Obama gave him heat-seeking missiles, you've been saying give them more heavy arms, you little turd. But you know the general public can't find their butt with both hands. I mean, you people are just unbelievable. You're sick. It's like a bank robber calling the police on the teller. Veterans sue city over takedown of Gadsden flag. That's on Infowars.com. Insider blows the whistle on military takeover plan as they're training to occupy U.S. towns and cities. Amazing. Again, it's not an attack on our military. It's an attack on who's commanding them. That's just some of it. Wayne, we're going to go to the calls right now. Any other tidbits you'd like to add before I go to these calls?
Well, I mean, I always say, you hear these stories about what they did to the poor, fawn up in Wisconsin, and then there was a 95-year-old man who was tasered and shot by the police because he refused medical treatment in some facility, so they just killed him. I mean, a 95-year-old guy.
Oh, no, there's a new video of a homeless guy calls a cop reportedly a bitch. She pulls the gun out and shoots him in the stomach, and they're saying they mail. I'm seeing 10 articles a day where cops shoot innocent people unarmed now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every dystopian future sci-fi movie, all actually, you look at them now and you think, my God, what is that? Is that a movie? Is that a documentary?
Or no, is that a vacation spot?
Yeah, right.
A lot of I see dystopic stuff made 50 years ago, and I'm like, that looks like a good place to go live.
Exactly. I mean, it's and I said this even back, when we had Bush Cheney in there. I said America seems to be suffering from moral indignation fatigue. It's like, people say, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. But they've got to hear more. They've got to, they got to understand that if they don't stand up and refuse to be just swallowed up by this machine, that it's going to come get them eventually. They're going to succumb to it. They're going to be they're going to wake up. It's like many of our founders said. It's not like South America where the tanks go in the street overnight. You got a military regime. The day before, you might have a democratically elected president. In this country, it's like a slow burn. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual thing, and then when you realize it, it's too
absolutely.
late.
But those are hard to beat because they're so incremental. David in British Columbia, up in Canada, you're on the air with Wayne Madsen. Go ahead.
Madsen?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. On your issues, questions for Mr. Madsen. You've raised numerous issues there. I'm wondering on the Benghazi situation. Do we see it as an October surprise, much like Jimmy Carter, where the intelligence agencies were trying to subvert Obama and put Mitt Romney in power? Secondly, do we see Putin's resistance to the U.S. as a counterbalancing force, which might help stabilize the world? And thirdly, do we see these recent, I'm looking at antiwar.com, and I'm thinking Interpol issues global alert after prison breaks in Iraq, Libya, and Pakistan. And we have Syrian rebels capture anti-tank missiles from government forces. And I'm wondering if these prison breaks of al-Qaeda personnel are meant to reinforce the Syrian
I was about to say, I want him to answer that, but on the last one, they've been caught doing fake prison breaks where they get people, train them, basically get them to get in line, find out who will work with them, and then they release them to go carry out operations and call it a prison break. Wayne?
Well, that's true. I'll answer the last one first then, since we're on that subject. Exactly, because there was a huge prison break in Yemen some years ago, and people who were accused of being involved in the bombing of the USS Cole were released, and all the guards are looking the other way. Obviously, I mean, the U.S. must have had some say-so there. And of course, and then these guys that get released from Guantanamo, many times they go back working with the insurgent groups. And if they were tortured, they may not have been insurgents to begin with, but they certainly are insurgents after they were tortured. So
exactly, it's factories of producing these people.
Exactly. So on the Benghazi thing with Mitt Romney, look, Mitt Romney was caught with an open mic saying, what we need here is our Jimmy Carter strategy. Now, what does that mean? What happened with Jimmy Carter? George Bush and Bill Casey arranged to meet with the Ayatollah Khomeini's representatives in Paris.
By the way, this came out in the Iran-Contra. This is not your opinion.
It was arms for no hostages. Keep the hostages at the embassy in Tehran, and you'll get weapons from us. They sent the weapons over there. I wrote extensively about this. They were sent over on a ship called the SS Poet out of Philadelphia.
Tow missiles.
Yeah, everything. Parts for Iranian F-14s that were embargoed, and they were all delivered to the port of Bandar Abbas. And then after that, the SS Poet with a 34 U.S. crew disappears. The government said it disappeared in the Atlantic on its way to deliver corn to Port Said, Egypt. It was never even sighted going through the Straits of Gibraltar.
So that's just like killing the Navy SEALs that were on the fake bin Laden raid.
Absolutely.
They killed the guys that delivered that. Everybody working for the government should know, if you're involved in a dirty op, they're going to kill you, idiots.
Yeah, because you know too much. So when Romney said Jimmy Carter's strategy, bingo, that was it. I said, there's something going on, and I would almost bet that Petraeus had to be involved. Remember, he was the neocon darling.
Sure. Well, I'm not defending the neocons, but let me ask you this question: why did Obama go along with the cover-up then?
Well, he couldn't fire Petraeus. He couldn't fire Petraeus before it looked bad. It's people say, why is he firing the CIA director right before the election? He didn't want that problem right before the election because, people start asking questions. Obama wanted to keep it focused on his cult of personality, right? So he didn't want this problem. So where did they fire Petraeus? The day after the election.
Absolutely. We're going to come back with Don in Michigan, Dan in Wisconsin, Thomas in Ohio, Merrill in Utah, and others. And thanks for the call from British Columbia, David. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Prisonplanet.com is our backup site. Check it out.
Protecting your...
The Alex Jones Show.
And we are back. Look, our government's always had problems. All governments have, historically. But special interests that are very ruthless have gotten control. And if you look at how they gave weapons to Iran and then weapons and advice to Iraq to have a 7-year war that killed over 1 million people, or you look at how our government funded Russia to then fund North Vietnam to invade the South, that's all been declassified. You figure out, wow, it's not a government. It's these big arms dealers and banks and combines, just like the Rothschilds funding both sides of the Napoleonic Wars. That's in mainline textbooks. And they just sit back while we all kill each other and take our liberties and take our freedoms, which makes their crimes more secure via national security. And I'm sick of it. I want to go to your calls quickly now with Wayne Madsen, NSA whistleblower, with your comments or questions for him. And let's go to Don in Michigan. Go ahead. You're on the air, Don.
Hi there.
Hey, buddy.
Wayne Madsen, I'd like to know, they've had 3 prison breaks here recently. Are they planning a false flag where they're getting their people out so they can use them?
Well, yeah, I think that's cannon fodder. Look, there was a big one in Iraq, right? And it's not far from Iraq into Syria. So obviously, what was it, 500 or something like that?
That's where they send the jihadis. Yeah,
instantly you got 500 added to the ranks in Syria. The weapons are starting to go into Syria in a big way now because, Assad has been able to fight back successfully against these rebels, these jihadists.
And Israel hit Russian installations in Syria, unprecedented.
And now you got the Syrian Kurds battling the Islamists, the jihadists in Syria. And, here we go with the Kurds again, but these Kurds, unlike the Kurds in Iraq, don't have the support of the United States. So, it's an amazing turn of events, but it's part of this. Remember, this whole neocon op thing that is to destabilize what they call the crescent of insurgency, the crescent of violence, which they claim goes from Morocco all the way to Indonesia, the Muslim crescent. And
global destabilization is good for weapons contracts. Anything else there, Don?
Well, it was Pakistan and Libya, and then one of the articles in the Guardian, they went through specifically yelling out for certain prisoners to free them. So I just wonder if that was their outcome.
Oh, yeah, they're just...
You're right.
Yeah, no,
right.
They've been caught before with these fake breaks.
Look, when Gaddafi said on TV that why is the U.S. funding al-Qaeda, that they are the rebels, everybody laughed at him, thought he was crazy. Now, look, I've seen Gaddafi personally in Libya and in New York at the UN, and I think the guy might have been a hash user, but I was at least told that by some people close to him. But I don't think he was. He was not off his rocker with that statement. He was right on the money when he said...
Well, that's all been admitted that the main force, especially, was al-Qaeda. I'm just sick of them taking my rights, the name of al-Qaeda, when they run them. I mean, it's in Lindsey Graham. Al-Qaeda's going to get us. Aren't you scared, Candy? Oh, I'm very scared. I mean, this is like bad acting in a third-grader play.
And I think al-Qaeda is the name of a guy. I think there's a guy named al-Qaeda, and Lindsey probably wants his phone number.
All right. All right, Don, thank you. Dan in Wisconsin, you're on the air.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, Wayne, I'd just like to ask you a question. Now, I've been hearing that, this whole Benghazi attack was really about kidnapping Ambassador Stevens in order to go ahead and negotiate with Obama for the release of the blind sheik, being how more.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, is it was going to be a false flag. It could have been a false flag, so Obama could have a fake hostage rescue.
Right. Yeah, well, that would look. You're right, because look, even with the Iranian embassy seizure, that the Iranians had demands. We just didn't want to accede to any of their demands. They wanted the Shah back, who was had gotten out of there. For example, that was one of the demands. So obviously, if there was one of these false flag embassy hostage seizure situations, there would have been demands made.
Yeah, I mean, we know this. Yeah. There was a stand down. They've been caught lying. We don't know what really went on. We know there were weapons there. Wayne said that 9 months ago. It's now confirmed. CNN, we appreciate your call. I mean, I'm not tooting your horn. That's a big deal. How are you? Because you were the first guy we got on that knew that. And then Schaefer agreed, and so did Pachinik. I mean, you can't give us your sources, but you were pretty sure on that. I mean, is that like widely known?
Yeah. Well, it was amongst people in the intelligence community and in the State Department and even in the military. Again, this was before the huge crash. Look, they were already going after some whistleblowers. They'd already indicted a few, but it wasn't the chill hadn't totally set in yet. So some people were still willing to talk.
Sure.
Well, they're hard to find these days, though.
Well, we just got an urban warfare center, DHS, built on a military base from the people inside. They say they're training to take on the American people at these villages. That's admitted they're training to take on the Tea Partiers, and that's in the Army War College reports and everything. But it's still bizarre to actually see the photos. So we got a whistleblower. Insider blows the whistle on military takeover plan. We got that from a contractor who was former military. And we vetted that through 2 other sources, by the way, so that's up on Infowars.com. Let's go ahead and go to Megan in Pennsylvania. You're on the air with Wayne Madsen.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Welcome.
I didn't know you could hear me. Hi, Wayne. Hi, Alex.
Hey.
Do you think it's more that the people of America are scandal-proof these days, or that we're just not hearing about it? Because, I mean, the truth came out about Benghazi. I mean, so many people know about 9/11.
I think it's a mix of both. I mean, I think it's a mix of both. But you just get used to living, basically in a tyranny. And then as the increment, it's like the frog in the pot. What do you think, Wayne?
No, I think a part of it is what I call moral indignation fatigue. But the caller's right. We're not given a lot of this news. The veteran newsman with NBC, John Palmer, died. I believe it was yesterday in Washington. And, he's no pun intended, he is a dying breed of journalists. Back in the day when he was on the air, we got straight news. And remember, it was a half-hour news broadcast, but with commercials. It was only 22 minutes of news. We got more news in that 22 minutes than we get an hour after hour after hour on these dumb cable news programs. And that's part of the problem right there. The news back then was focused. The time was at a premium. And people like John Palmer and people like, there were many like him, Paul Duke. I've met some of these guys, and they were great guys, but unfortunately, they don't exist anymore.
But I mean, now we have state-run media other than a few talk radio and a few websites like WayneMadsenReport.com, DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com, whether it's left, right, center, libertarian, we want truth and justice and freedom. They're openly announcing that the Pentagon, what did you make of last week, or now a week and a half ago, the Pentagon going, we're going to stop lying, but we're going to go out and engage all the blogs. I mean, I see that as the opening salvo of the takeover of the media. But the entire NSA Pentagon building at Fort Meade, hundreds of brass there, they look like they had the worst. They look worse than Japanese surrendering to Douglas MacArthur. Their morale looked hellish. Well, what was happening there?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, they're all having to fill out financial disclosure forms more often than they ever had in the past. In other words, they don't have any private life at all. Not that when you work at NSA, you're like anybody else who works.
But they're living under a real oppression.
Yeah, very much so. That Q group is like an internal Stasi combined with Gestapo, combined with the KGB. It's absolutely awful. They use psychiatrists. If you express any opposition to what's going on, you're sent to the shrink, and these aren't even qualified psychiatrists.
They're political hacks.
Psychologist, yeah. Anybody get a psychology degree? My God, you don't need a medical. You don't need to.
Well, the point is they cherry pick ones that go along with the game plan.
Then you lose your security clearance if they deem you crazy. You know that they used to do this in the Soviet Union. They had psychiatric hospitals where they sent dissidents and say, "Well, if you don't like the Soviet fatherland and the workers' paradise, you must be crazy." So that's what they do.
You know what, Wayne? Take us to the wall. Take us to the end. 15 more minutes. We're going to come back and go to well, Thomas is gone. We're going to go Thomas, Merrill, and a few other callers on the other side of this quick break in the final segment, and then I'll get into some of this political correctness, how they're trying to divide and conquer. But I want to have Wayne finish up where he thinks this country is going. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. We're talking to Wayne Madsen. We'll also tell you about his 2 new books that are out this week. By the way, tomorrow on the weekday show, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll look at Insider Blows the Whistle on military takeover plan. Why would the U.S. government need to build mock U.S. cities and towns and train for invading them? Well, they admit it's for gun confiscation if they're ordered. But if we politically stand up against this, they won't be able to sell the idea. That's why we're in an info war. But they want us divided against each other. Military against civilian. I hear mayors calling us civilians, police calling us civilians. You're civilians too. And the military is not supposed to be involved domestically. But now it's like your upper class of your government, and then all of the rest of us are civilian. I mean, it's very aberrant, the conversion we're seeing here. The new August issue of InfoWars magazine is out. It's a great way to wake up friends and family. You can get a 12-month subscription to give friends and family or buy them in bulk at cost. It's got Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman merged together on the cover to show that it's divide and conquer. And we look at how they're trying to get us obsessed on fighting with each other in the name of political correctness that really creates tribalism and division and racism, instead of worrying about global offshore banks that have diplomatic immunity and steal $85 billion of taxpayer money a month in QE3. So just so you don't think I'm lying, because this sounds crazy. When I saw this Thursday when we first covered it, I didn't believe it when I first saw the headline. Seattle bans the word brown paper bag, saying the word brown's racist, and the word citizen might hurt illegals' feelings, so you can't use that. Here's a short clip from that newscast, so you know I'm not joking. Here it is. And then we will go to your phone calls.
People work in city government. We represent all the residents of Seattle.
That is part of the memo to City Hall that spells it all out. A recommendation to no longer use the terms citizen or brown bag. The Office for Civil Rights says Seattle serves all residents, whether they're citizens or not. Some like it and some don't.
All right, that's enough.
It's ridiculous.
And then it just goes on to say it's racist to say the word brown bag. I mean, Wayne Madsen, this is right out of the Soviet Union. What is your take on this?
Oh, well, it's right out of 1984 in Newspeak.
You're speechless, aren't you? Wayne accidentally unplugged his headphones. He's getting them plugged back in right now. Let's go to a phone call while he's doing that. Thomas in Ohio. Thomas, I think he's got his headset plugged back in. We're watching him via video Skype. All of you can watch us at Infowars.com/show, by the way, not just radio, but TV as well. What's your question for Wayne Madsen, Thomas?
Hello. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for what you guys do. I'll try to be quick. I see what's going on in Syria, Libya, Egypt, and with the NSA spying and all these different things. I'm actually a member of the CSPOA. I'm a police officer. I joined up because I wanted to physically take a stand against evil for what was right. And once I see this stuff going on, I want to do something about it, but we have no recourse. I can't even get on Yahoo. I get on Yahoo, I see the news story, I try to comment, they censor my comments out. I mean, we have no recourse. What can we do about this? I mean, this stuff outrages me, but they say your recourse is to vote somebody else in. It's not working. What do we do?
Well, that's right. The globalists have given us the internet, but now they're practicing the gaming of it with cybersecurity. You only support alternative media. You support other people in your department that actually stand for a free country and not for thug behavior. Again, they train the cops to be thugs, and the public turns against them. Exactly what they wanted. The public should go out and talk to police, try to support good police, speak out against bad police. I mean, basically, good people have done nothing, and that's what has allowed evil to take over. Wayne Madsen?
Well, absolutely. You know, I was actually looking for a story on my iPhone earlier. That's why I wasn't looking at the camera. But I was looking for a story because you mentioned something earlier about, how this country's being destroyed. You know, a story to follow is what's happening in Detroit right now with the sell-off of the assets of the city. One of the assets is Belle Isle, which is in the Detroit River between Michigan and Ontario, Canada. And they're talking about creating a separate commonwealth where, it's going to be like a corporate tax-free zone. It won't be part of Michigan. It won't be part of Detroit.
No, that's the model of the world, is the globalist bankrupt things, and then they're exempt.
And here you're going to have this island in the middle of Detroit River where you're going to have all these multinationals coming in there, not beholden to any law. I mean, this is U.S. territory, but it won't be U.S. territory.
No. They call it the Singapore model of authoritarianism. Yeah. That's what they're going to. That's what Peter Thiel's pushing. After they implode things, then they go to a hyper-libertarianism where they're exempt, but still feed into government troughs.
Yeah, and what's next? Is Staten Island going to be next after that? Key West, Oahu. Where does it stop? Is this going to be the balkanization?
While the corporations lobby to raise our taxes to get it in corporate welfare. Great point. Anything else, Thomas?
No, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's good to hear police officers and sheriff's deputies that care. I know most of them I run into are awake and care.
And by the way, the first people taking it in Detroit are the police officers and the firemen. They're losing their pensions. They worked all their lives, and they're losing their pensions in Detroit.
Yeah, and I've talked to top nuclear physicist engineers. We should be working 2 days a week with all the automation, living like kings. But they've artificially are creating this neo-feudalism. Let's talk to Merrill in Utah. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
Good, sir.
And Wayne?
Thanks for calling.
Hey, I was up at the protest here in Utah at the NSA building, and I ran into this lady who runs a website called, it's Silent Weapons for Silent Wars or something. And I was wondering if Wayne's heard anything about that.
Yeah, that's Colonel Alexander. That's the soft kill operation. You got any comments on that?
Well, it's the, what's the name of the guy, Colonel?
It's the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars.
Is this the guy who was involved with the movie? It was The Men Who Stare at Goats was based on.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I know him. I met him. Yeah. Well, look, that data center in Utah. And thanks for protesting that. This thing is a huge. The NSA says it's collecting the metadata, but it's only looking at what it has a court order for. But not if it's out in that data center. What are they going to send these judges out there to make sure that they
admit on record they're grabbing everything? Yeah. What did you make of Alexander this week? And I appreciate your call, sir. What did you make of at the Las Vegas Black Hat event? Alexander, the head of the NSA, a separate Alexander than the Colonel Alexander. What did you make of the head of cybersecurity of the NSA saying, we don't spy without warrants, when 2 weeks ago he admitted he lied to Congress about that?
He and General Clapper, the DNI, both lied to Congress. And, it used to be that, that was contempt of Congress. That was a jailable offense back in the old days. But, yeah, look, Alexander has gone to this before this conference. He was basically banned this year from the other one, the DEF CON conference. But he's obviously he's out there trying to recruit people for Cyber Command.
Oh, he said, we need you to fight for freedom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, to be part of the surveillance structure of the United States. So one guy in the audience apparently yelled and called him a liar, and he denied it. But
well, he said, follow the Constitution. A bunch of them heckled him, and then he goes, we're promoting freedom. When he said to Congress, we don't spy on anybody, and he goes, I'm sorry, I was misleading you 2 days later. And then now he's like, no, and then he talked in a real slow NPR voice that really freaked everybody out.
Yeah. No, look, this guy came out of the Army Intelligence Corps. He's he was in Fort Huachuca. He's spent his entire career as an intelligence guy, just like his predecessor.
Yeah, and he's trying some NLP trick that doesn't work on anybody that has an IQ above 70.
And the other problem is, why is it now that directors of the NSA serve these lengths of time that almost equal the FBI director? Used to be they'd serve a normal military tour, 3 or 4 years max. Alexander's been in there for I don't know how many years.
Wayne, we're out of time. We're out of time for calls. I apologize. I'm getting you back on the next few weeks, and I want to carry your books, as I've read your others. They're excellent. Tell us about your new book and the other book.
It's the same book. It's NSA Surveillance, Reflections and Revelations, 2001 to 2013. Basically, a compilation of what I've already written about NSA with some of the Snowden revelations and showing how they match up.
WayneMadsonReport.com, or they're on Amazon. Wayne, thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you again.
Good to be with you, Alex.
All right, that was a good hour-and-a-half interview with him, 30-minute intro. I'm sorry to the other callers that are holding. I'll have to get back to you tomorrow during the weekday show, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Yes, that's 9 a.m. to noon Pacific, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Montana time, as they call it. Great job to the crew. Great job to all of you out there. We need your prayers and your support. Get the new August magazine at InfoWarsStore.com and wake up friends and family about Divide and Conquer, and start filtering your water with ProPure at InfoWarsStore.com. God bless you all. Weeks after the entire government in the State Department, the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Department, NATO, they all know there was 2 Predator drones over. There was a C-130. It took them 14 hours to get personnel there. They stood down for over 6 hours to let them be killed. That is a premeditated, deliberate stand down. And we have a congresswoman who is a former ambassador saying only the president could order a stand down of something of that magnitude on a State Department facility. And that's what went on. That's what happened. Congresswoman, Obama gave Benghazi stand down order. And we're going to be going over Ann Wagner's comments, the congresswoman, on that as well. So the point is that you've got all this other incredibly important news. We're going to get to that in the second hour. We've got NSA whistleblower and Navy veteran Wayne Madsen joining us at the bottom of the hour to go over this. But if you want to go to Infowars.com or Prisonplanet.com and click on the top red link story, confirm Benghazi was cover-up of arms transfer to al-Qaeda, you will see my guest with their sources in the Pentagon, the State Department, the NSA, the CIA, and NATO. Madsen had just been in Libya right before that happened, by the way. He actually goes to these places. Writes for some of the biggest publications in the country. They all laid it out. 3 different guests, and I had some others on as well, but they were speculating. These guys all had sources that said the same thing. And by the way, when Colonel Schaefer was on the broadcast, he ran Stratus Ivy and other major programs, could have killed bin Laden twice, was ordered to stand down in 2000 and 2001, testified in the 9/11 hearings. He was called in and threatened, because he teaches at the Army War College and also runs some other think tanks, and is also a contributor to Fox News. But he was called in and threatened when he came on my show and said that, and couldn't come on for like 6-7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 4th day of August 2013 on this live Sunday edition. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here as we are every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, for the next 2 hours. This happens more and more when I'm about to start a broadcast, that I just try to focus as much as I can to cover every bit of news and information we have, and to try to lay it all out as best we can understand exactly what's happening. I got here 3 hours before the show today, and I prepared for the broadcast basically for about 4 hours before that at home. And I think I'm almost like a race car driver or something that goes out and does a bunch of laps and almost practices too much beforehand. Now, you know, some days I come in there 30 minutes before the show and don't do a lot of preparation because I've already know what I want to talk about. But when it gets into a subject like Benghazi, or it gets into a subject like the NSA, or a subject like Obamacare, or a subject like immigration reform, I start studying the subject and then get so much knowledge, it's hard to put it all out there. But I'm going to try to go over it all today. I think the most amazing facet of it, and what kind of dumbfounds me personally, is that it's 100% fact that the White House, Obama, the State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon ordered a stand down and sat there and waited 14 hours to get people on the ground, and it took them over 6 hours to overrun the embassy substation arms cache and kill the people inside. It was the front office of a large warehouse complex out back with thousands of heat-seeking missiles, anti-aircraft guns. Is that we've caught them red-handed. There's no mystery to Benghazi. We're going to break all that down when we come back.
Protecting your home with a security system is a must.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we are here 6 days a week live. You have just now tuned into the Sunday edition, 4 to 6 p.m. every single Sunday Central Time. It is the 4th day of August, 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, we have solved the Benghazi mystery, and we solved it 9 months ago, just a few weeks after the September 11th attack on the embassy substation that killed Ambassador Stevens and other CIA State Department personnel. And we on record with an NSA whistleblower, Wayne Madsen, with the former head of State Department Psychological Warfare, Dr. Steve Pachenik, with the former head of major operations in Black Ops, Colonel Tony Shaffer, and other guests we had on. And up on Infowars.com right now, we have the confirmed Benghazi was cover-up of arms transfer to Al-Qaeda by Kurt Nimmo and yours truly, Alex Jones. And we worked yesterday and today on this article that has, from September of last year and October and November, 7 different links, 3 of them posted, video interviews / radio with Colonel Shaffer, Wayne Madsen, Dr. Steve Pachenik on the show first on our broadcast, breaking down exactly what happened at Benghazi. And ladies and gentlemen, if I knew this a few days and a few rocket launchers, so both small, medium, and some heavy arms. And I've spent the last day going back and digging up the Colonel Shaffer interviews, the Wayne Madsen interviews, the Dr. Steve Pachenik interviews, where they all laid out in the days, weeks, and months after. Going back 10 months ago to September 11th last year, within just a few days and then weeks and months, they laid it all out that their sources said there was a stand-down ordered by Obama, that there was a giant arms cache there with the ambassador from Turkey being there, and then it was being transferred to Syria, and that the Benghazi security force had been ordered to basically go over and kill the ambassador and everybody inside by an unnamed group. Who do you think pays them? The White House. To get rid of witnesses so they could basically have plausible deniability later and say, oh my gosh, Al-Qaeda got all these missiles. We've got to take your rights away. They've got thousands of missiles crippling Europe and the U.S. We've got to set checkpoints up everywhere and take all your rights and have the TSA, stick their hands down your pants everywhere because of Al-Qaeda. We laid all that out with our guest and our sources who weren't speculating. They were told this by their CIA, FBI, Defense Department, State Department sources. And then I went back last night, this morning, today, and I watched these hour-long interviews with Wayne Madsen, Colonel Shaffer, Pachenik, Dr. Pachenik, and it was all exactly accurate. Then I even found Kudlow reports a month after we broke it, with their witnesses saying the same thing on CNBC. So all this big news coming out, because now CNN's reporting the same thing we've been saying in the last few days, even months after that happened, and is only now able to come on the show. I mean, it was a total freak out when he came on and said what he said. And what did he say? Heat-seeking missiles were transferred out of 3 giant warehouses. You can look at the Google Maps of this, that were controlled by that building behind it, filled with all of these heavy, medium, and light weapons. We're talking thousands of over 10,000 heat-seeking missiles missing in Libya. Several thousand. I also talked off record to an Air Force colonel. Here in Austin, Texas. I'll just leave it at that. I talked to an Air Force colonel in person that said, yes, they got most of the 10,000 heat-seeking missiles, and there were thousands in that building alone. And you had the Turkish ambassador, the foreign minister, there meeting hours before. My guest broke that months and months before it was in the news. And if you just tuned in, what am I getting at here? CNN Thursday night came out, and we're going to play clips of this after the break. CNN came out and said, oh, we're breaking that there were 35 CIA operatives in warehouses behind the building, and that there were missiles and heat-seeking missiles in there. Now, we broke this here, okay? And I don't want the credit. I just want people to understand, we don't make stuff up. I told you a year and a half ago, right after the Navy SEALs, 20 plus, was it 23 Navy SEALs, blew up on a Chinook aircraft in a fake mission and then were attacked once they hit the ground, that I talked to a Navy SEAL who's a friend of the family, for one of my dad's friends. He's friends with his father. We've known him for over a decade, you know, enough to come over and, you know, barbecues at my parents' house. And they said, no, he's in another SEAL team. I'm not going to say the SEAL team, but that everybody that they talked to in SEAL Team 6 knows there was a bomb on the helicopter. And it was a setup. Well, I told you that over a year ago. Now that's Fox News. That's